guys, welcome back. Now that the Halo Infinite tech preview is finally over and we can actually confirm that, believe it or not, Halo Infinite is a game that actually exists, it's time for me to give my honest thoughts, opinions, and feedback about what we played, and I have a lot of feedback, let me tell you. I don't know how long this video is going to be, so buckle in because it's going to be a fun ride. However, before we start, I do just want to give a quick kind of disclaimer and also reminder about what we played. So, we were invited by Fu43 to play a technical preview to give feedback on the game in its current state so they can help shape it the best way possible for launch. That means giving both positive feedback and talking about things that we liked about the game, and also giving critical feedback and talking about things that we didn't like about the game. If someone starts talking about an element of Infinite that they didn't like or they didn't enjoy, that is not them being overly negative or being a Bungie fanboy, just like somebody talking about a feature that they enjoy and they liked is not them being a 343 fanboy. We were there to give them honest feedback about what we liked and what we didn't like. Really the way it goes. And also, with it being a technical preview, it's also worth noting that pretty much everything we saw in that build is subject to change. Nothing in there was final, so if there's something that you really didn't like, then don't lose hope that that's going to be how it is for launch. Like I said, we were there to give feedback and help them improve the game for launch, and that's just what I'm going to do in this video and what pretty much everyone else is doing. So keep it civil down below in the comments, and let's start this bad boy off. So, let's start off with my positive feedback, and then we'll get into the more negative stuff later. The most positive thing, or one of the most positive things for me, was just how polished and kind of tight the game felt, considering it's not even a beta. Like, I was going into this technical preview expecting it to be really, really buggy, really badly optimized, and honestly, to not really have a great time because the game wasn't running very well, but I was proven very wrong, much to my surprise. I know some people, like Halo Canon, were literally unable to play the game at all, but that seemed like a pretty small group of people. I had almost no issues the entire weekend, which is very surprising in a very good way. The biggest thing, though, was the gameplay. The gameplay really surprised me because I think it's really good. Infinite's suite of kind of mechanics, if you will, I don't even know if you can call them mechanics, so sprint, slide, aiming down sights, and clamber, are quite a generic set of mechanics as far as gaming goes, but I think they played really, really well in Infinite. I was really happily surprised. The gameplay of Infinite feels like something that I can just chill with and just play again without having to try hard, unlike Halo 5, where I felt like I had to take Adderall and snort like 5 lines of cocaine just to play Social Slayer. The gameplay feels like it can really well accommodate both casual and also competitive gameplay, which I really can't say was the case for Halo 5. Biggest thing though is sprint. For the first time ever in Halo, sprint is no longer a necessity. It gives like a mere 8.94% like movement boost, which is tiny, and that means that maps, weapons, auto-aim, bullet magnetism, and AI don't have to be designed around it. They aren't constricted by the hyper movement speed of the game like was the case with Halo 5, which means, I think at least, we're going to get some far more interesting maps for this game compared to Halo 5 because the developers and the map designers aren't limited by this really constrictive set of abilities. They can just kind of design whatever they want and the gameplay will flow nicely. One of my favorite things about sprint in this game, and I can't believe I'm actually saying that, was that you can shoot immediately after sprinting. There's no delay anymore. Like in Halo 4 and Halo 5, there was always that really awkward moment where you sprint around the corner into somebody and then you have to wait for like half a second for your Spartan to raise his gun. That is completely gone now, which alleviates one of the biggest issues of sprint before, for me, that was how much it damaged the gameplay flow. That's no longer an issue. So yeah, I'm very excited to see the benefits this has across the entire game because those benefits are going to be plentiful. Now, of course, one of the big elements of gameplay is the way that weapons feel, and weapons in this game feel pretty damn good, I'm not gonna lie. The BR in this game is my second second favorite of all time. Halo 2's BR will always be the GOAT for me, but Halo 3's BR on LAN feels as good as the Infinite BR, and Halo 3's BR on LAN feels like butter. Infinite's BR is beautiful. I am in love with this thing. Infinite's Needler is absolutely fantastic. I had so much fun using it. The animations, the design, it felt so satisfying to shoot. My only issue with the Needler is the firing sound, or lack thereof. It sounded really bugged. It sounded like a suppressed SMG. And there was also no super combine sound either. If I had any feedback to give about the Needler, I would suggest for launch, honestly, give it the classic Needler firing sound and super combine sound. And if you did that, I think we might have the best Needler of all time on our hands here. This thing is beautiful. I am in love with the Ravager and the Heatwave. I really like this emphasis on weapons having kind of alternate fire modes. That is significantly more interesting than every weapon just having some gimmicky aim down sights feature, and that's something that I'd really like to see future weapons for Infinite adopt more so than aiming down sights. Both the weapons are really unique, aren't exactly mirrored by anything else in the sandbox, and are just so satisfying to use. Again though, if I had one bit of feedback specifically about the Ravager, it would be to give it the brute shot effect of like physics. So in Halo 3, if you shoot the floor with a brute shot, or if you shoot an enemy with a brute shot, there's displacement. You knock them everywhere, right? Brute shot jumping in Halo 3 was such a cool jumping mechanic, and the kind of displacement effect the brute shot had in that game made it really fun to use, especially against crowds of enemies, and I think the Ravager would benefit greatly from something like that. The sidekick looks incredible. It makes my snake solid, and it also surprisingly feels incredible too. I was kind of surprised. It doesn't feel like any iteration of the Magnum. It feels like a truly distinct pistol to me. I mean, everyone thought that it was going to function just like the Halo 2 Magnum, and I was really hoping it wouldn't, because the only interesting thing about the Halo 2 Magnum is the ability to dual wield it, and Infinite doesn't have dual wielding. But no, I was surprised. The sidekick was really, really fun to use. It was strong enough to stand on its own, but not so powerful like Halo 5's pistol that it just out damages everything at any range. I think it was really well balanced and is in a really good spot. The plasma pistol overcharged sound is, I'm gonna say the word, it's iconic. That thing sounds beautiful. The Bulldog as well is surprisingly satisfying, and again, like the sidekick, I don't feel like the Bulldog really invalidates a classic shotgun much. I thought the role in the sandbox was going to be pretty much identical to the classic shotgun, but it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be slightly different to the way that a classic shotgun works, which gives me hope that maybe some point down the line there will be room in the sandbox for a classic shotgun. The skewer is, as expected, to be honest, incredible. It's one of those weapons that is genuinely difficult to use, but that's a good thing. It gives it a proper skill gap. It makes it so people aren't just one-tapping everyone out of nowhere with it. It's going to be one of those weapons that, like, a year or two down the line, when people finally figure out how to learn and they kind of ingrain the bullet drop and also the travel time of the bullet into their muscle memory, you're going to start seeing some disgusting plays. It also sounds incredible as well. Now, for equipment, I am, right now at least, really happy with it. I love the way that equipment in this game can be kind of combined. So something that me and Ubanick did was he stuck me with a threat sensor on Bazaar, and then I grappled around the top of the map and it was like an enemy recon plane coming in, like a UAV. I love that level of interactability between the pieces of equipment. Halo 3 had that for sure, but it didn't feel quite as emphasized as it does in Infinite. And on the topic of the grapple hook, it's amazing. I am in love with this thing. I was quite concerned that it was going to end up feeling more like Black Ops 4's just god-awful grapple hook, and less like Titanfall 2's just beautiful grapple hook, but I'm pleasantly wrong on that. It feels like a more balanced and less over-the-top version of Titanfall 2's, as in, you can still use it to get momentum, so if you aim your grapple hook at a wall, you can kind of like swing yourself around that wall and use momentum to launch yourself somewhere. Unlike Black Ops 4's, where it was just like a straight line kind of thing. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like as extreme as Titanfall 2's did. Like Titanfall 2's, you could literally launch yourself across like the equivalent of Blood Gulch on that thing. And if it was like that in Halo, it'd be a bit much, but it's not. I think they have nailed the grapple hook in this game. I love the way that it interacts with the sandbox and the environment and actual bipeds as well. This thing is the most satisfying element of Halo's sandbox for me since Halo 3's Sniper. I could not love this thing anymore. I also don't entirely hate being able to pocket overshield and camo. I feel like the activation time is long enough to compensate for the fact that you can stick something like that that's that powerful in your pocket. I'll be honest, when the bots or enemies had OS and camo and hadn't used it, I couldn't tell, but I didn't really see that as much of an issue because the activation animation is so obvious and so slow that I can very easily kill somebody if they're like whipping it out and they're trying to slam OS into their chest in the middle of a fight. That said, I would like to see the option, at least for like the classic overshield and camo orbs, to be there, at least for customs and maybe competitive. I think the two systems are very different and both have their positives and negatives, so it'd be great to see both in the game at the same time. I liked, for social at least, the idea of partially randomized weapons on the map. So there's like a randomized precision slot where you can either have a BR or a commando show up, or a randomized like tier 2 power weapon slot, so it was either the Bulldog or the Heatwave. However, please keep that as far away from ranked as possible. Social and bot games, perfect. Adds a lot of variety. But in ranked, where you want to kind of make sure all the variables are as constant and predictable as possible, that degree of randomness isn't welcome. I want that to be a social only thing if possible. Being able to drop your weapon is such a cool feature, but I want it to go further. I want in matchmaking to be able to drop both my weapons and like run around with fists and just start smacking people. I love doing that, just even if I was just hitting a wall in the firing range. So being able to drop both my weapons in matchmaking and like do a fist only game, oh dude, I'd love that so much. You could get like Counter-Strike knife rounds going at the start of games and stuff. I really would like that option. I really like what I'm going to call the new mythic medals. So for killing sprees over 20 kills, so 25, 30, 35, and 40, they've changed them now. So it used to be like, I can't remember the rest of them, but for 40 kills, it used to be unfriggin' believable. But now you've got things like Nightmare and Boogeyman and Demon, I think it is, for 40 kills. I much prefer those. To me, they seem like the medal equivalent to Reach's mythic ranks, like Inheritor and Nova and all that, and Forerunner and stuff like that. I think they're far more interesting than like unfriggin' believable and stuff like that. As cool as they were, I love that change. I think it's a lot cooler. And also on the topic of medals, something I really like seeing is higher tier medals, like for example Overkill and Running Riot, showing up in the kill feed when someone's on that spree or on that like multi-kill. I think it's a great way to kind of show off to the entire game what you're doing, and honestly I'm kind of surprised this is the first game that's done that. It's a very cool feature. As far as maps go, I think Recharge is pretty good, and I think the setting and theming of Live Fire and Bazaar were both really good. The layout's not so much, but I'll get to that later. But I love the setting and theming of Live Fire and the color palette of it. Obviously, it's a really refreshing map to look at in terms of the color palette. It's like really green and quite natural. And obviously the map being themed around Johnson is just like, oh, butter. And also Bazaar being set in Old Mombasa, but post-war, with them literally rebuilding the space elevator in the background, is so cool. That's such a cool backdrop. Yeah, very cool. Okay, so for customization, predictably, it's bloody incredible. It's very good. The armor looks fantastic. The customization features are incredible. Like they said, it's literally Reach on steroids, pretty much. I love it. I think the coatings look genuinely amazing. They look beautiful. That one in particular, Ghost Grey, that's like Linda's Nornfang colors, looks unbelievably good. I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna keep saying this because it's the way that I feel. I think the system behind coatings is still god-awful. I cannot stand the system behind them. I will never support monetizing colors. There are ways to do the coating system without locking color customization behind a paywall, or at least a partial paywall. Obviously, some of them are going to be unlockable in-game, but like for the most part, colors are monetized now. As much as I love the coatings, I will never get behind the system of coatings. I'm sorry, can't support it. And a setting that kind of links in a little bit with customization is weapon offsets, which I thought were really cool. Being able to change the actual view model of your weapon, like the X-axis, the Y-axis, and also the Z-axis as well, was really cool. However, I want them to take the offsets further. I want to be able to have my view model look like Doom or something, or really outstretch my arms. Like, for example, a lot of games, when you change your field of view, what happens is your arms get longer and you can see more of your arms, and I've always loved that, and I really don't like nowadays how games are moving away from that. I would love it if, like you can see on the screen right now, 343 added an option to really increase the offsets, but maybe have a warning that says if you go past this percentage of changing your view model, then animation quality will deteriorate something. Because obviously when your arms are this outstretched, animations look buggy. Please let me either have a Doom view model or a view model with arms that look like this, and I'll be so happy. And then just for some kind of random assorted things that I really liked, the music was, good lord, incredible. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We had a Desmond Hume as a bot.
I see you in another life, brother.
And also John Locke as well.
What if everything that happened here happened for a reason?
Yes, I know they're not Lost references, but I'm a Lost fanboy, and that makes me so happy. I think the AI for the bots was genuinely, like, so good. As someone who's not played a game with that many bots in it since, I think, really, Black Ops 1 training mode, or whatever it was called in BO1 where you fought bots, these bots actually blew me away. I would say they are the most human-feeling bots I've ever played against. Their strafes and nades were disgusting, like, vile, but that made them fun to play against, and made some, like, funny moments as well. These bots, the AI they've got for these bots is really, really well made. Massive props to everyone at 243 who worked on that. You guys have done a stellar job. And also this makes me really excited for the AI in the campaign as well. I have a feeling the campaign AI, if it's anything like this, is going to be really intelligent. I love the fact that controller aim assist was really low, and also in this game, mouse and keyboard actually felt viable for the first time really ever in Halo, which is, I think, in part due to the lack of aim assist on controller. Compared to MCC, this felt night and day. I would say that on MCC PC, controller is, like, literally broken. I don't even bother using keyboard and mouse because I'm at such an unfair disadvantage against controller that it's just not worth it. Whereas in Infinite, I thought it genuinely felt worth it, and I didn't really feel like I was at much of a disadvantage. I think when they are there, the physics effects in this game are really funny. Like, I love the melees where you smack a bot and they just go flying across the map. Yeah, it may have been a bug, but honestly, I hope they keep that for launch because it made for some really funny moments. And lastly, I think the player intros and also the winner's circle at the end were really, really cool. Much better than Halo 5's betas, and I'm really hoping that this is how stances are going to be integrated into the game. I'd love it if at the start of the game, our stance was how, or like our stance animation maybe, was how our Spartan kind of ready for combat. I think that'd be really, really good. Right, let's move on to the more negative things now, the more critical pieces of feedback that I have. And honestly, this first one made me, so when I saw this, I went and put my original Combat Evolved disc in a blender. I burnt my original copy of Halo 2, all my Halo 2 memorabilia. I smashed all my Halo 3 statues and stuff. I took it all to the dump and just dumped it. And that is the fact that the fruit in this game isn't individually... It's not individually destroyed. Can't destroy it. Oh my god, I'm sorry, I can't keep that up. I saw that on Twitter the other day. Oh god, oh my god, that hurt to even pretend to feel like. Jesus Christ. Okay, on to the actual negative things that I thought about it. So, my biggest issue with this game is the friend or foe system, the outlines. I'll be honest, I think they're considerably worse than Red vs. Blue. I don't think they do as good of a job as Red vs. Blue. I thought that it's quite ironic that they said that they've gotten rid of Red vs. Blue and added these outlines to enhance player expression and make it easier for people to see what coating and what armor other people are wearing, when I literally couldn't tell anything about what a player was wearing because the outlines were so bright, regardless of what color I had them. I think the accessibility features with outlines is great. I think that's fantastic for, like, the accessibility front of the game, and I don't want the outlines to be completely removed from the game, but I find it quite ironic that they were supposedly at least added in place of Red vs. Blue so we could see player expression more, and I can't tell what armor or coating anybody's wearing, whereas a game like Halo 3 or Halo Reach, where there are Force team colors, I can tell, at least in regards to the armor, I can tell immediately in those games what armor people are wearing. And then another issue with the outlines that I think is considerably more significant than not being able to tell what armor somebody's wearing, is that I have no way to tell with this coating system how much health somebody has. I have no idea if somebody has full shields, half shields, no shields, over shield. That was very easy to tell in literally every Halo prior, but I can't tell for the life of me in this game. And also, I don't like the fact that you can spot enemies at a massive distance so easily. I don't like how much enemies stand out. If I could offer some feedback about the outlines, I would say my feedback would be to remove them from enemies and just have outlines on teammates. Have no outlines on enemies and basically turn it into a friend designator, not a friend and foe designator. I think that would be a better way to distinguish friend from foe. We'd also be able to see enemies' coatings and armor more, and enemies wouldn't stand out at a distance. I think that is definitely the way to go for this. I really don't like this game's medals. I don't like the placement of them, I don't like the size of them, and for the most part, I don't like the design of them. If I could give feedback about the medals, genuinely, I would say, just for the most part at least, go back to either Halo 3 or Halo Reach's medal designs, especially the multi-kills. 343 in Halo 4, 5, MCC, and Halo Infinite have got really boring multi-kill medals as opposed to the ones that Bungie had in Halo 2, 3, and Reach, and ODST technically. Obviously, this is a very rough mock-up, but this is how I would do the medals in this game. Infinite has like a color medal rating system for rarity, so the more common medals are like green and blue colored, and then the rarer ones appear to be like purple and red. What I would do is bring back the classic Halo 3 or Halo Reach medals, and then have like a sort of like an outer glow around them with the medal rarity. So you can see here the overkill has a red glow, the triple kill has a blue glow, the double kill has a green glow, etc, etc. That's a good like middle ground, I think. Another cool feature that I think they could do with medals, at least for the really high tier ones like Killionaire, Demon, Nightmare and stuff like that, would be to have them animated. So for example, you get a Killionaire and there's like, you get the medal, the Killionaire medal, and then there's like inclement weather or electricity around it. Or for Demon, there's like fire in the background or something. I think that would be really cool if they could do that. I'm really not a fan of the radar in this game. So what they've done with the radar is they've taken the radar that was used in the final settings for HCS in Halo 5, and they've put it in this game. So what that radar is, it's called an ability radar. So in Halo 5, it was essentially meant to slow down the pacing of competitive gameplay, because what happens is you don't show up on the radar unless you're shooting or using a Spartan ability, which means, unlike every radar before, you could walk, not sprint, or walk or run at a full speed and not show up on the radar, which in Halo 5, considering, at least for me personally, I couldn't stand Halo 5's gameplay, I hated the Spartan abilities, that was good, because it didn't encourage you to use them. But Halo Infinite doesn't have Spartan abilities, right? Halo Infinite's most Spartan ability is a sprint that gives you less than a 10% speed boost. So I really feel like a radar that is meant for Spartan abilities like this is really unnecessary. It made for a really inconsistent experience, and to be honest, I just stopped looking at my radar. I just didn't bother using it most of the time because it felt so inconsistent. I would just go back to the classic radar where you only show up on the radar if you walk or shoot or grenade or use an equipment. And also, kind of in keeping with that, I really don't like the HUD in this game. I feel like the HUD in Combat Evolved through to Halo 5 was significantly better at conveying to me the kind of vital information that I needed in a gunfight than this HUD. Having like the weapon that you're holding, the amount of ammo you've got in a magazine, and also left over, the grenades and the equipment all kind of boxed into the corner it's too messy for me. Like the amount of times I found myself just throwing the wrong grenade because I didn't want to look down there and sort through all the information, or not realizing that I had a drop wall or something to save me from like a sniper or something. I really, at the very least, would like an option to customize my HUD and just put everything back where it was from Halo 1 to Halo 5. Having little pieces of information in all corners of the HUD in those games allowed you to very easily and very quickly ascertain the information that you needed in a firefight. So if you need to see, for example, how many grenades you've got, top left. Ammo, top right. Score, bottom right. Radar, bottom left. Very simple. Now it's all mushed together, and doesn't do it for me. It's far too messy and just not as efficient. I think the time to kill in this game is maybe a little bit too fast, but honestly, that's not an issue that worries me because Halo 5's beta had a very, very similar thing. And by the launch of Halo 5, I think they pretty much got the time to kill in the perfect place. If I could offer any feedback about this, I would say maybe increase the time to kill by maybe like 10 to 15%. Not too much, but enough to make battles last a little bit longer. Now, my next few points of feedback, I think, kind of play into why the time to kill is so long, and I think if you fix these things, the time to kill would be in a perfect position. So, the first thing is the fact that every single weapon in this game has a headshot multiplier, which is no bueno. No. I would, in a heartbeat, remove that. A headshot multiplier is a feature that should be limited to precision weapons, if you ask me. It's part of their unique flair. It's what gives them a role in the sandbox and makes them unique compared to automatics. The only automatic I would give a headshot multiplier to is the commando, because obviously that's like a hybrid of both. And also I feel like if you got rid of headshot multipliers on automatics and every other weapon that's not precision, it would make the commando more unique because it would be the only automatic weapon in the entire game to have a multiplier. But yeah, headshot multipliers on like the assault rifle, the pulse carbine, and the plasma pistol. No. Get that out of there. Get that out of there. And speaking of the plasma pistol and plasma weapons in general, the plasma pistol was weird. The balancing's like completely wrong, I think. It actually kills a target without shields faster than it strips shields, which, if you know anything about Halo, is the wrong way round. It's meant to... So plasma weapons in Halo traditionally are meant to be insanely good at stripping shields, but really bad against flesh. So what that does is it encourages kind of cooperation between elements of the sandbox. So you want to use a plasma rifle to drain shields, and then switch to a BR or a carbine to finish an enemy off, or pistol whip somebody with the plasma pistol, and then melee them, right? You don't want the plasma weapon doing everything, because then you get a sandbox where all the weapons kind of just stand on their own 2 feet, and it really doesn't encourage interaction between elements of the sandbox. So yeah, I would significantly nerf all plasma damage against health and buff it against shields. Take it back to that state where plasma weapons were disgusting against shields and useless after that, and I think the sandbox would be far more interesting. The pulse carbine just feels kind of weird. I kind of figured it out on the second day of the flight that what you're meant to do, or at least what I thought was the best thing to do with that thing, was to fire it at the enemy outside of red reticle range, which seems really off because it's got this very sort of subtle tracking feature that means that if you try and lead your shots, the shots will like track round the enemy and miss them, but if you aim directly on them, the tracking isn't strong enough for the shots to hit them. So you have to kind of ignore the red reticle rate. It's weird. That thing felt so strange to me. And I know I'm not the only one that felt that. I know a lot of people were saying that the pulse carbine didn't feel right. So I would maybe get rid of the tracking feature. I would get rid of it. I don't really know what else I'd do with it, to be honest. I'm kind of clueless when it comes to that. Something else that I'm not a fan of with the plasma weapons is that every single plasma weapon has the ability to be manually vented now. This is essentially a glorified reload feature that I think homogenizes the sandbox too much and makes all the weapons too similar. And it kind of removes the unique quirk that plasma weapons once had of you not having full control over when you can and cannot fire the weapon. I think plasma weapons now require far less thought to use because you don't have to kind of control how much you use the weapon and then wait for it to vent. You just fire it as much as you want and then press RB or R or whatever to reload it, essentially. I think it makes the plasma weapons feel far too similar to the UNSC weapons, and I would prefer it if they didn't have a manual venting feature. The skewer is in a weird place where it's really satisfying, but it could be even better. I feel like the skewer should have like Half-Life 2 crossbow style effects. So when you shoot an enemy with that thing, not only should it send them flying, it should also impale them to walls. I actually can't believe that that's not a feature. I thought it really would be. Look how big the spike is. Like, that thing should impale a Spartan to a wall. Add that and the skewer will be even more satisfying. And also something that I noticed with the skewer, it doesn't fire like actual spikes. It just fires some weird, like, untextured cylinder with a pointy end, which compared to the spikes that all of Halo 3's spike weapons fired is a lot less interesting, but that could just be due to the fact that the game's not finished yet. The gravity hammer needs to get its physics effects back really badly. I'm in a weird place with the grav hammer in this game where I think it was quite satisfying, but at the same time, didn't feel great. I am not a huge fan of that, like, really slow wind-up speed for it. I do like the fact that it differentiates it from the sword, because before the hammer and the sword were very similar, but I don't like how unresponsive it feels. Like, if I go around a corner, I feel like I almost have to, like, re-swing the hammer, which feels really wrong. And I'm not sure if the kind of pulse effect that comes out of it is enough to compensate for the really slow swing speed. It also feels really weird using it in close quarters as well, especially lunging, because when you lunge with it, you hit the enemy before the animation is done. So you lunge, and like your hammer's like there, and you've hit the enemy and killed them, and then the swing animation happens, and it doesn't... Something feels off about it, but the main issue that I have with it, more so than anything, is the physics effects. Like, when I swing that hammer, I want everything to go flying. I want pieces of the environment to go flying, I want bodies to go flying, weapons to go flying, my teammates to go flying, me to go flying, I want to be able to hammer jump again. That's kind of a persistent issue with this game, honestly, overall, the lack of physics effects for certain things, but I'll get to that in a second. Not having friendly fire really sucked because it made the grenade spam far less aggressive and require far less thought. Like, no longer do I have to actually think before throwing a grenade. I just throw as many grenades as I want, irrespective of where my teammates are. Don't have to worry about betraying them at all. Doesn't seem to matter. I would be fine if there was no friendly fire for social, but for ranked and competitive, friendly fire and also player collision should absolutely be there. That's another thing. Social, that's fine, I don't really care, but for ranked and competitive, player collision needs to be there. There are so many unique, like, Halo moments that can happen from standing on your teammate's head, like boost jumping, butterfly jumping. It would be a real shame to lose that for no apparent reason. At least for ranked and competitive, that should be there. And yeah, going back to physics effects as well, we need to have grenade jumping back. Grenade jumping has always been quite a uniquely arena shooter feature, and it's one that I've always loved in Halo. Like, there are so many cool moments in like Halo 2 and Halo 3 and Halo Reach that I've had from grenade jumping. So many cool spots you can get into, so many cool plays that can be made, and I really want to see it back. I love that Combat Evolving has made a comeback again from Halo 5 and Combat Evolved, but it's weird that nades like throw weapons across the map but not players. That grenades definitely need to displace players more, for sure. And speaking of grenades as well, two issues that I have with the grenades. Number one, the plasma grenades don't have a trail when you throw them. So when I throw a plasma grenade in Infinite, I genuinely can't tell if I'm throwing a plasma or a frag because the effect when I throw it looks the exact same. Whereas a game like Halo 3, Halo 2, Halo Combat Evolved, even Halo Reach, when you throw a plasma, there was like this blue kind of like fluffy, almost contrail of plasma that came behind it that made it clear that's what you were doing. So I would love to see that come back and added to the plasma nade, but then again, that could be an issue where we were playing a pre-release build where that feature or that element of the graphics hadn't been added yet. And then also for grenades, I felt that, at least when I was playing controller, switching grenades felt really awkward, so I had to press, I think it was left on the D-pad, which then opened a sub-menu in the UI that I then had to navigate whilst I was playing. See, this is the issue with the UI. This is another UI issue as well as like a control issue. The UI is so cluttered and like kind of put together that there's not enough room to show all the grenades anymore. Like before, I could see both my grenades and I could very easily switch between them. Whereas now, I have to sort through a sub-menu, and I don't like that. I would much prefer it if the grenade indicators were just point back to the top left and were easily navigatable. Okay, some issues that I had with the maps. I think Bazaar was alright, but I thought Live Fire, in terms of layout, I'm talking about layout by the way, in terms of layout, Live Fire was pretty boring. It wasn't, none of the maps were bad. I wouldn't say they were bad. They weren't like Halo 5 Regret or anything, but I mean, compare Live Fire to like Construct or Sanctuary or Midship or Lockout or Guardian. I don't know about that one. It was kind of boring. It was mostly just like 3 lanes with a small tunnel and a sniper tower. There's not much going on there. I wasn't a massive fan. I think also on Bazaar, something that would make Bazaar significantly better would be to remove the hard ceiling on the map. So the hard barrier that you hit at the top of the map that pushes you back down, remove that, replace it with a soft kill barrier, so a return to battlefield timer, and let us like grapple over the buildings. So not only would this be perfectly on brand because the map is based on Old Mombasa from Halo 2, and what did you do in Old Mombasa in Halo 2? You jumped over rooftops. Everyone did that. It was almost like an actual part of the game, right? And I think the real benefit of this would be that it would make the grapple just even better than it already is on Bazaar. When I use the grapple on Bazaar, I feel like I'm almost like locked in a box. I feel like the map's too claustrophobic because I go for some like really cool swing jump around the top of one of the buildings or off like a radar dish, and I just immediately hit a barrier and get forced back down, which I really don't like. I feel like the map would be a lot more freeing and a lot more fun and interesting if I could grapple launch myself over rooftops. I think that'd add so many cool outplay moments, and it'd make the map so much more enjoyable and less claustrophobic. And then yeah, the last thing for maps is I'd love a map veto system in this game. I really don't like this like Halo 2, Halo 5 approach of just having the game pick a map for you. Halo 3 with its map veto system was perfect. That is the best map voting system and map selection system in gaming ever. It allows the community to kind of like work out what people like in terms of maps and game types and what people don't like. Yeah, I would love to see a map veto system come back. And finally, just 3 pieces of totally random assorted pieces of critical feedback. Number 1, emblem customization in Halo Infinite is absolutely awful. It is terrible. It is the worst emblem customization that Halo has ever seen. How we've gone from MCC having full-on emblem customization and nameplates to Halo Infinite having an emblem that you select, that you can't customize, you can't change the color of, and that you can't change the nameplate of, and should definitely go back to the MCC way of doing it, where you've got emblems that are like the classic ones, where you can fully customize them, the primary, secondary, and tertiary layers, and then the nameplates that are like MCC as well, where you can fully customize them. That is just an objectively better system than Halo Infinite's. I'd love to see a Combat Evolved style loading screen. Right now, the loading screen is just 3 white dots, which is really boring, and Halo 5's loading screens are really boring as well. It was just concept art with some kind of cliche quote. I would love to see like a Halo, literally any Halo before that really, like Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo Reach, Halo ODST, Halo 4. They all had really good loading screens. I'd love to see something like that, but specifically Combat Evolved, because that's beautiful. I'd love to see one like that come back. And finally, one very minor thing that one of my friends pointed out to me, on PC, there's no exclusive full screen option. There's either borderless full screen or windowed, and for optimization purposes and for frame rate purposes, an exclusive full screen mode is necessary, I think, so that would be great. And yeah, that is pretty much my feedback on Halo Infinite. That's everything that I could just pretty much get down on paper during the flight. I'm sure there's things that I missed out here, both on the positive and negative side. If there's anything that you would like to see change for better or for worse, then let me know down below in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And with that said, I'm going to round this video out here. Before I do though, I just want to say a massive thank you to you guys for all the support over the weekend with the streams. I opted to focus on streaming over video content for the weekend, and then just focus on videos after the flight ended. And the streams were incredible. We played with some great people. We had people from like the COD community. We had Foxy, we had Noah J in there, we had Connery's Pants in there, played with Nick a lot as well. It was a great weekend. Thank you all for the support. It means so much to me. So with all that said, I want to give a massive thank you to Momo Kawashima and also Solo the Pink Spartan for becoming new Primordials over on Patreon. And thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Halo Infinite actually exists. You love to see it. Thank you all for watching once again, and I'll catch you all in the next one.